Hello, welcome back to Colonel O'Truth's Miniature Issues. This is Undercrag City. In today's episode, I'll be filling in the space underneath the dragon's wings with a stained glass window in the cliff wall. I'll be fitting an LED, building some stonework, creating some stained glass, painting and texturing, adding sand and clay, and finishing off by blending this piece into the rest of the mountain. In the previous episode, I created the stone dragon in the side of the mountain, and I left this space for something else. I wasn't sure what. Now I've settled on adding a round window to the cliff wall. I've selected the size that I want in my circle template and drawn it into a piece of 5mm black foam board. I'm going to use the same diameter and a slightly larger one to create two card circles. As usual, this is just cardboard from a cat food packet. I very roughly cut out the circle. And the same with the card. You'll notice that I'm turning the card as I cut. This allows the knife to do the work without trying to cut across myself at awkward angles. That's a little bit irregular, but it'll work. I peel the paper off one side of the foam board. This is going to be my stone texture. Now I'm gluing the first of the two circles to create a window frame. I mark the second into roughly equal sections. And then cut it out as before. Then I start cutting it into individual stones. This is done by eye rather than measuring, because so many parts of Undercrag City are irregular and rough that if I start doing things very precisely, they're going to stand out like a sore thumb. I'm starting with 4 larger pieces to mark the quarters of the circle. I'm putting smaller pieces in between, leaving fairly wide spaces. Now I'm drawing in some stonework. As you'll see, this is all going to get covered up, but at this stage I wasn't sure, so I thought I'd better add as much detail as possible to save myself work later on. Now I'm drawing another circle into my acetate sheet. If you've watched previous episodes, you'll see that this has been treated with Mod Podge to create an irregular and slightly frosted appearance. Using a Sharpie, and again without being too precise, I'm creating a stained glass window. Once this is done, on the reverse side, I start filling in panels with acrylic inks. There was no planning here. I'm just doing what I feel works. The red ink is drying, so I'm painting the stonework. If you haven't already, please remember to subscribe to this channel. Maybe give me some likes and shares as well. All of this helps the channel to grow, and I really appreciate your support. And please remember as well to leave any questions and comments below. I respond to all of them. Now, while the grey paint is drying, I'm preparing an LED, tinning a couple of wires first. I push the LED through a piece of foam core to anchor it into the model, and I've marked my positive and negative. The positive on an LED like this is always the longer terminal. I've added red tape to one of my wires for my positive. A quick loop around the terminal, a quick blob of solder, and it's done. Now I'll feed it into the model, get everything in place before I start building in front of it. As usual, the interior of this piece will be black. This will prevent too much from being visible through the window. I'll just check how that's going to look. And I'll paint my terminals black as well, just for good measure. And hide them behind some card. The red's dry, so I'm adding some yellow. I'll let that dry and highlight my stonework. When model making like this, it's good to have several parts going on at once so that drying times don't stop your flow. You can go from one piece to the next and back again. A thin black ink wash finishes the stonework. And here's my finished window. Just going over some of the black lead work again. I'm going to put it behind the window frame with a very generous coating of PVA. It's going to take a bit of fiddling around to get this central. I'm making a bit of a mess of things here, but it'll all be fine in the end. The window is now inserted into the hole rather than sitting behind it, and I'll hold it in place with a couple of blobs of superglue. Touch up the ink where I've damaged it. And finally, it's time to put this in place. With the wall in place, I've sculpted the mountainside using red Das clay, which I've shown numerous times before. Now I'm adding sand for texture. Almost all of the stonework has been covered by the clay. That's just how it worked out. With everything dry, I'm painting in the mountainside, overlapping onto previous work as I always do. And now highlighting again. And ink washing. This window and the door beneath it nicely relate the outside of the cliff face to the cave where the undergate sits. With the black ink still wet, I'm adding green and yellow ink. Again, these are processes I've shown many times. I'm not thinking too much about this, and I'm being quite heavy-handed. So there we are, one more small detail added to Undercrag Mountain. I'm starting to work my way upwards now, and things are going to get ambitious from here on. I hope you've enjoyed this episode, and I hope to see you next time. Bye for now.